All right, folks, we're back again. I feel like we need some kind of intro music. That would be awesome. Ba-ba-ba! Feasibility Friday. I'll work on that. So, another Feasibility Friday today as we go through the new Giraffe City for Orlando. We got a cool project coming up today. Skorman development out of where is this project? It's in South Lake, so it's a little bit out of town. And let's share the screen. Have a look. Here's our portal that we built last week. You remember we added in the Westcourt project. We've added in a bunch of really helpful data layers, some of which are giving me a fit. So let's turn some of those off. Let's turn off the future land use, existing land use, maybe even Orlando zoning. And the parcels, let's just turn them all off. Okay, actually, let's turn everything off. Boom. Sometimes simple is better. In fact, almost always simple is better. So in today's project, we're going to go out west here to look at this Skorman development. And we're going to do a couple of cool things. So instead of focusing on the math like we've done for the apartments and the townhomes that we did a few weeks ago, we're going to focus on grading on Feasibility Friday today. And we're going to look at this exceptionally cool site plan. This site here, I think personally, is a very nice multifamily site. It is right next to a bunch of amenities. There is, I think, a Publix nearby. There is all sorts of cool things. So we might call some of those out just as we're moving through the demo here or through our feasibility. But then our bulk of our feasibility is going to center around what's actually happening, the site plan. Now, interestingly enough, if we just look at precedent, across the street, turn up the satellite, there is a very dense multifamily type deal with a clubhouse, great pool, turning circle. When I look at the Skorman plan of what they're looking to build, they're effectively copying this layout. And so instead of drawing off the PDF, I thought we might say to ourselves, all right, well, let's pretend we're Skorman looking at this deal from scratch. And let's experiment with literally just copying the precedent across the street and seeing how it would work over here. So with that, let's get right into it. And there's one kind of special grading element that we're going to bring out as we go through this. So at first, we're going to consider the site as though it's flat. And then as we get into it, we're going to start taking the elevation into account. And I'll show you why we're going to take the elevation into account. I'm going to add in the 3-foot contours from US Geological Survey. You can see there's this wetlands here, which I've added a 50-foot buffer to. For those who are really interested in how to do that, I just right-clicked on the wetlands, create, and then I hit add new property, offset, 50 feet. Looks awesome, exactly 50 feet around. But now I might actually just turn this into a transparent red polygon so that it doesn't sort of take up our whole view, that big ugly thing. So now I've got the 3-foot contours in there. If I turn the satellite down, you can see the site sort of falls away into this lake or this wetland area. And I believe what the intention here is to turn that wetland area into a lake type conservation. So at the moment it is primarily all, I guess, mangroves or swampy type creek area. And it will ultimately become a lake. I think that's a smart use of the wetlands. And then this boundary here becomes, this sort of 50-foot boundary becomes, a landscape type area. So we'll tend to that when we get there. First of all, let's go across the street and steal some of these buildings. I think they're nice buildings. I think they are a cool product. I have actually driven by these. I dig them. So I'm going to turn the 3D buildings on. And I'm going to grab one of them that doesn't look a bit messed up. Let's get this guy right here. Say create. And when I create a polygon from the satellite or from the vector, you can see I can just move that, right? So I'm going to just move that straight onto my site like this. Boom. And we'll call this garden apartment. I think they're 3 stories, but what the interesting thing about these is they're actually 2 stories with a third sloping away from the site. So it's like 2.5 levels, and that third level is a garage. So I'm going to show you how we do that in Giraffe in just a minute. Okay, so we've got our precedent building design, and you can see these buildings are like crazy close together. Like if we go get the measurement tool, like as the crow flies, as the crow doth fly, it's about, gosh, 15 feet. That's wild how close that is. Center point. That's shortest. Yeah, I think that's like a 15-foot gap, which is crazy close together. Honestly, this site feels like it was laid out by a generative algorithm. So that might actually be what we end up doing. Okay, so let's have a think about that. There's 2 kind of factors when we do a garden style thing. One is parking. And we're going to cover a lot of the parking with these garages underneath. But we still like, I mean, this is America. We have guests coming in town. Really, in many ways, it's 2 cars per household these days, particularly in Florida. So we still probably will do something like this on street perpendicular parking, and we'll do the garages underneath, which, you know, I haven't been inside of these, so I don't know if they're like that, but I can assume they probably are. So I want to build a couple of algorithms. I want to build one to do the layout of my buildings. I want to build one to do my roads. Now, luckily, I have a perpendicular parking one that's like ready to rock here in Giraffe. So if I just bring this in, you can see perpendicular parking. It's not perfect. Sometimes when you turn a corner, it freaks out. So we might just play with that, see if we can solve these yucky bits. And but the other one I want to draw is like a what do you call it? Like a one that lays out the buildings on a string, so I don't have to be constantly going like this, you know, even though that's not terrible. So let's do that. We'll start there, and we'll go back to. I'm going to make these a group to start with. I think that's probably right. So I'm going to do the semi garage underneath. Go out like this. And how big's a garage? It's, well, how big's this? This is basically 80 feet. 80 feet's too big for multi, isn't it? Let's go back and have a look at these. It's got like a 100-foot corridor. 3D buildings, let's turn that down. Okay, so it looks like the satellite might be picking up the roof line as opposed to the building. So let's shrink that down a little bit. Come back maybe 3 feet on either side, or maybe 5 feet on the sides. Probably right. Go 5, 5, 5, 5. All right, so what's that now? Basically 68. That's much better. All right, so what I want to do now is go really underneath here, go almost to the halfway point, and create a car park. The car park will be a multi-deck so that it stacks on top, but it's just a single level. Let's go have a look at it. See how we've got this cool, like, hatted building here. It's not that cool. Let's go back like that just to get it flush. And then now that it's flush, we can probably bring it back into the halfway point. Yes, love it. Okay. Now, I'm not going to do any grading or anything like that yet. I'm just going to group this together. We'll call this our building group. Okay. Now, I'm going to use a couple of cool features here. We'll start with a line. Okay, that line is just going to go like that. I'm going to open the flow builder and we'll say, do an array. See, I've got all these points on that array. And then on the array, I want to add a instance group. And the instance group I'm going to use is BLDG. Boom. Now I've got thousands of buildings, which is awesome. But we want them spaced. So we said 15 feet for building spacing based on the precedent to plus, so 172 plus 15, call it 200 feet between buildings. So let's say spacing starting at 200 feet, starting at 0. Love it. Okay, now we can go ham with our, oops, I can't delete that. Let's put this on our reference layer. Okay, so we'll get rid of that. We'll pop him over here. Now I'm just going to start vibing this thing. So let's go, I don't know, like this. It feels right there. And maybe we'll go like this. Something like that. You can see him just playing with the shape of the line to try and get some kind of vibe here. Okay, that's starting to feel pretty cool. Might be too many there. We might not have enough sort of space for that one. Maybe space these ones out a bit. So I'll go back up here and say array, make it 250. Yeah, like that. There we go. That's cool. Shape these boys a little bit. Take it up, take it up. As we get up. And then let's stop that there. Variation, always cool. Okay, so what have we got here? We've got about 200 units already. Lord Almighty, that's cool. Okay, and then what else do we have? So we've got 200 units, and then I believe we want a clubhouse, probably overfacing the pool. So what I might actually do is copy the wetlands again and make one called pool. And then we'll use this sort of 50-foot buffer, I guess, to do, I don't know, like a big landscape thing. There's going to be landscape everywhere, to be honest with you. So let's just draw like this. I'm going to snap to all our edges here. Maybe we'll come up to like here. I'm going to move this later, but we'll just get it in there for now. And if you haven't used the format painter before, it's pretty cool. You can draw something and say to this guy, hey, inherit the properties from that. Works almost exactly like the format painter in, what's that tool we love? Excel. All right, so then we might just come back to our reference layer guy, and why don't we use him as our sort of model? Whoa. No, we don't want that. We want a copy of him. A reference guy, we're going to have to pop over him. And no! Oh, I see what it's done. The one we copied is the origi-dig, and this one is our free pony. So here's going to be sort of our model unit down the front on the entry. This is at the major artery. You can see how much traffic is going to come off this road. And I believe Skorman have the entry here. You can sort of see the intersection is already there. So we probably want to leverage that. I don't know if they need another entrance. Do you think they need another entrance? What do you think? These kind of communities sort of thrive off the fact that there is only one entrance. Closed kind of vibe. So probably not. It'd be interesting to know what the planning authorities think about whether they need to have another entrance or if they need an easement or something. Big substation right there. Golly. That's a wild placement for a substation. Could be putting data centers here with that kind of power. All right, let's keep going. Sorry, distracted. And then I might draw another line and we'll assume that sort of on this bend, we're going to get a few more apartments, and I'll say inherit the properties from that line, and there's our apartments. So that's nice and easy. Okay. All right. Now let's think about our clubhouse. We probably want it overlooking this awesome landscape thing that we've built. So why don't we think you could have it up here, but normally clubhouses and sales are sort of in the one spot, aren't they? So why don't we move this guy a little bit? I wonder how close to the property line. We haven't even done a zoning assessment yet. Kind of skipped ahead here. All right, so I reckon, and I think if I remember correctly, the clubhouse for Skorman's like here somewhere. So how big's a clubhouse? Let's go have a look. That's kind of a cool clubhouse setup. How many square feet is that? 4,000. 4,000, so about 12,000 square feet. All right, so how big is 12,000 square feet? Lots bigger than that. Maybe it's a 2-story deal. All right, so we'll go amenity, 2-story. Let's draw a pool in front of that. I'll go to our flow builder and grab our cool pool tool. Something like that. See, the corners on this pool are way too sharp, so let's drop those corners down to like 3 foot rounded. There we go. We've even got some deck chairs. Woohoo! Look at that. That's cool. And that tree right there is right in the middle of our park. Not very, maybe no. The tree's in the middle of our pool, which we don't want. Let's just shape our, okay, that'll do us. All right, so now we're going to think about parking, and then we're going to think about grading. And I'm trying to keep this to 30 minutes to keep it interesting. So broadly speaking, I'm hitting a density that generally works for most sort of institutional capital builders. 200 units this big is awesome. What we should have done at the start is looked at what the zoning allows. I'm going to just have a quick look at that right now. So I'll go to Zonomics and say, hey, bro, what are we allowed to do on this parcel? Zonomics, by the way, incredible company, doing amazing things with zoning data. If this site has already been rezoned, my plan is, or is in the middle of a planning assessment, then it's not going to give us anything very helpful. But what I may do is look at this site and use it as precedent to see what it's been zoned as. So let's see. Ooh, I love it. Okay, so max FAR 0.1. No. What are we at right now? 0.3. It's interesting, isn't it? Okay, go back to Zonomics, sorry. Max impervious coverage, that's a good one to have. Max building height, good one to have. Setbacks, yes. Max density dwelling units per acre. Okay, so there is one, but it's conditional. That's what STF means. So let's go generate a 3D model. And what that will do is give us our setbacks as best as we understand them. Side 25, rear 25, front conditional. Okay. All right, so what zoning is this? It's the same. Look at that. Fascinating. How is that 0.1 FAR? Not sure I believe it. Not sure I believe it, people. Let's go have a quick look. We'll open the link. And I'm being told that it's currently zoned agriculture, which obviously it's going to get rezoned. So there's no way it's agriculture. That would explain it. That would explain it. All right, well, either way, the setbacks aren't going to move. And looks like we're right on the setbacks, which is perfect. Could maybe even come down, although I'm sure this is going to be regarded as side. So let's do that. And that will also be side, so let's change that. this will all be rear. And that's good actually, because give us some nice clearance off the, whatever this is, power lines or something. Train line maybe. Interesting site. Rear and side are the same. And then I'm assuming this is going to be considered the front. So we could go, oh, sorry people, I did this last week as well. I've been showing you this and it's not interesting to you. Let's go back here. So we could go into the code, find the right FAR. I'm just going to roughly do what they've done here, and I think we'll use that as our argument. Next thing we need to think about really is, like I was saying, parking and grading. So I may do we've got a lot of parking. I'll do the sort of road network first. I'm going to do this like spaghetti Western thing that seems to be interesting. So kind of like it's actually, yeah, something like that is probably right. And then we'll do the same thing but snaking around from here. This is, I think right now I'm basically just copying the site plan. Look at that. That's not very nice. What's happened there, Giraffe? Generative design, it's like it's awesome when it's awesome. Call this, what are we calling this? Envelope. All right, just want to get rid of the envelope. Pop it onto the envelope layer. And we will lock it. All right, so I'll lock the reference layer. Some sort of generative monkeys in there, and that's okay. We'll fix those later. There you go. Okay, some parking is clashing, less than ideal, but not a deal breaker. And then we'll fix the rest with road. So we'll come down here. I think the way they have it on their plan is like a bend here. What's happening? Oh, drawing all of this on the wrong layer. Silly me. Default. Unlock the envelope. Go back and get this little guy. These are the fun bits, All right, drawing on default. Good, let's go. You can see now that the roads are on the same layer. They are healing, which is what we want. All right, so bit ugly, and some false news here, some fake news. So this algorithm might not be the best choice for this. You can see it's going a bit crazy. It's obviously creating a polygon that it doesn't like. So developers, if you're watching, as in software developers of Giraffe, let's try and fix that. I think that is problematic. All right, so we're going to do this. Okay. Then we probably need some kind of turning circle. Boop, 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 boop. And what do we get? That's a horrendous turning circle. Let's get rid of that. I want a beautiful avenue as we come into the property. This is very Disney, beautiful avenue lined with palm trees. Turns up, you see the clubhouse. Very nice, kind of I think what the Skorman have done of this sort of like tiered clubhouse thing, which shapes with the driveway and a pathway that kind of goes around the whole property. I'm not going to go to that level of detail, but we'll keep running here. on this guy up here. Okay. And we probably need just something to join these two. Let's just do a vanilla road. And we'll do a quick turning circle. That run all the way up there. Perfect. Around those corners, make them a bit more attractive. There we go. Get rid of that corner. We don't need it. Perfect. Around those corners. All right. So I've made some huge sort of faux pas here, just in the interest of speed, keeping this interesting. But we're there. We've got the site plan. Now, the bit I promised you was grading. Okay. And what we're going to do is look at, and what I really like about this project, and I'm going to bring up an image because I think it's helpful. Growth Spotter, our favorite friends in Orlando, have this excellent cross-section of what's happening. So you can see the engineers here have done a great job with these like runoff troughs down to the wetland. Very smart. But also we've got this 5-foot drop for the garage. It seems like not enough to me to have a garage, but the concept being half the building is subterranean. Well, not exactly subterranean. So let's spend some time doing that. And I'm going to show it to you first on the model unit that we have here. We're going to do that via our terrain feature. So we'll pop open terrain. And we've got 5 minutes left, so we're going to make this extreme. I'll say extreme grading. It's one of my favorite things to do. So to do grading, you can see when I open up the terrain, I've got the contours. You can see it's relatively flat in this piece. That bit's not flat. We're down at the bottom of the basin now. That's fine. We're going to use it anyway. And we're going to do 2 pads, one that takes a cut here, and one that sits on level there. So first thing I'll do is say, create our level pad here. A building pad is just a way of giraffe, allowing the user to define where an elevation, it can be underneath an object, obviously. So I've got one building pad, and we said that was going to be at 100, I believe, is the way they've done it. And then at the moment you see the angle of repose is I need to put that on the default layer. So let's go here and say angle of repose is basically 90 degrees because it's going to be short up by the back of the car park. And then we'll do another one underneath here. Use base point move so we get it accurate. So take that corner and put it under that side of the car park. All right, so now we get to play with our elevations. So this building pad, we want to be at 95. Oh yeah, looks good. Now you'll notice that the angle of repose is giving us grief, and that's fine. Come back a little bit just so we can see it. But then also, the floor to floor of this fella is projecting us up over the terrain. So let's go to our little floor to floor machine. We'll say car park. Look, I'm actually going to just dig the hole a little deeper. We'll say 92 and perfection. Okay. So now we want to echo that across our whole building. So I'm going to actually say, for these back ones, we want to use building A as our reference point. So I'm just going to rotate these slightly, make sure they sit perfectly on the pads. I'll grab all of these and I'll say group, and we'll have this as BLDGA, which is that sort of elevation of the rear sight. Then we'll go to our instance group, wherever that has gone, and we'll say, please use BLDGA. BLDGA, no space, my bad. Instance group, use that one, please. There it is. And now all of those have the same cut and fill as per our description. And we'll do the same for this line, but this time we'll do BLDG2, BLDGB, this one BLDGB. And we'll do the elevation here as, on this pad, it is, I'll group it first, I should say. This pad, it starts at 92. And on this pad, it goes down to, it's 92 minus 8, 84. Grab them together, group BLDGB. And now we'll say to the ones that are further downhill, go and get this instance group and populate the line. And now they're all graded at the right spot. Now I'm cheating here because I've got the site plan open and I know how it's graded, but that's pretty amazing. And you can see it's giving us a total cut and fill, which I'm sure the pond, the way the engineers have worked this out, is the pond is offsetting that. So I think this is super cool use case here, and wanted to just throw that in there as a viable solution. We've got heaps of building pads. We're getting the total cut and fill. I don't want to optimize because the engineer is optimized, and I'm sure we're making up by trenching that pool because that's suggesting that we need a fill. All right. Thank you, everybody. This is going to be in the feasibility portal. I may actually come back to this deal because I'm interested in what it probably cost them to build. But today's feasibility was more of a design/civil one. And if you're interested in learning more about Giraffe, or you want to know more about this deal, me about Giraffe, Growth Spotter about the deal. That would be my 2 cents. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend. We'll see you next